The entire lobby froze when she started speaking Arabic. Not from Google Translate. No stumbles, no hesitation. Every word rolled off her tongue smooth and sharp, like she'd grown up walking the streets of Dubai. But the thing is, she wasn't a language specialist, not a cultural consultant. She was just the receptionist. That same woman, 6 years behind the front desk, answering phones, scheduling appointments, helping guests fill out forms. Part of the background, like elevator music, always there, never noticed. Until today. David Reynolds, the company's CEO, was passing by with a coffee in hand and came to a full stop. His eyes widened. Not because of the language, but because of who was speaking it. It was a Monday morning in downtown Austin, Texas. Quantum Dynamics was already buzzing, keyboards clicking, whispers about deadlines, the espresso machine humming in the corner, people holding laptops, rushing past an untouched ping-pong table, gearing up for a new week. David had just stepped out of the stairwell, heading to his corner office on the 3rd floor, when he heard the voice. Not just any voice. Clear, sharp, confident, and in a language he'd only heard a few times, usually in Gulf region boardrooms. Arabic. It stopped him in his tracks. Not because it was Arabic, but because of who was speaking it. He glanced around, expecting to see a visiting international rep. But then, he saw her. A woman in a Navy receptionist uniform, hair pulled back neatly, standing behind the polished wood desk. She was calmly speaking to a group of confused-looking guests from Dubai, each holding a small suitcase. With a warm and steady voice, she directed them to the Driscoll Hotel a few blocks over, and even recommended halal bras down the street for shawarma and hummus, just like home. Then, almost effortlessly, she began explaining the company's cross-platform AI software, using technical terms she'd picked up from How I Built This during lunch breaks at Houndstooth Coffee. David tilted his head. He'd seen her before, of course. She was always there, greeting guests, transferring calls, quiet, polite, invisible. But now here she was, speaking fluent Arabic like she was raised in Doha, effortlessly weaving in product details with vocabulary David usually only heard from his dev team. He slowed his steps, tightening his grip on the coffee cup. One of the Dubai guests, eyes lit up, asked, "Where did you learn Arabic?" Sarah smiled. She remembered the late nights with Arabic Pod 101, studying while her son slept, and medical bills piled up on the kitchen table. She once chatted with a Middle Eastern chef at SXSW, who taught her how to pronounce shawarma like a local, and what it meant beyond food. Then she turned to a vendor and switched to perfect French. "C'est dans la salle B, à l'étage suivant." David clenched his hand, not out of frustration, but from something that hit deeper, like a quiet punch to the chest. He'd run Quantum Dynamics for over a decade, closed deals across the Gulf, hired translators, built language partnerships. Yet here she was, a single mom, probably juggling rent and overdue bills, standing behind his front desk with a battered college notebook tucked under the counter. Same notebook where she once scribbled her very first Arabic words. He stepped closer, more curious than commanding. "Excuse me?" She turned, slightly startled but composed. "Yes, sir?" He smiled. "That was Arabic, right?" "Yes, sir." "You speak it fluently?" "Yes." "And Spanish, French, Japanese, German." He blinked. "You're saying 5 languages?" "Yes, sir." There was no boast in her voice, just truth, plain and steady. David stared at her, trying to process the reality that his receptionist, the woman who greeted clients at the front desk every morning, was a walking multilingual powerhouse. One of the Dubai guests leaned over. "She should be our translator for the contract meeting. What's your name?" David asked, his voice low. "Sarah Collins, do you have a minute?" Sarah raised an eyebrow. "Right now?" "Yeah. Come up to my office." She hesitated, that quick flicker of caution in her eyes, like someone used to being overlooked. Then she nodded. "All right." David pressed the elevator button and held the door open. Inside, silence settled between them. 6 years at this desk, Sarah said, eyes fixed straight ahead. "Never thought I'd be invited upstairs." David gave a quiet smile. Things can change fast. He had no idea how much. The elevator dinged. Sarah stepped out, her soft-soled shoes gliding across the polished wood. The hallway smelled like fresh coffee and clean ambition. Like money, if it had a scent. David's assistant looked up, eyes wide when she saw who was with him. He didn't explain, just gave a small nod toward the door. Inside the sunlit office, David gestured to the chair across from his desk. "Have a seat." Sarah sat carefully, fingers laced together in her lap. Her eyes moved slowly around the room. A monitor showing market trends, a small espresso machine, a photo of David's son, a framed certificate from a Seattle conference. She wasn't impressed, just curious. David leaned forward. Sarah, let me be honest. I didn't expect this conversation today. You flipped through 3 languages like light switches. Why a front desk job? Sarah didn't answer right away. Her gaze drifted toward the window, then back to him. It's a long story. You sure you want the truth? I wouldn't have asked otherwise. She rubbed her palms together like warming up for something hard. I grew up outside Austin, only child. Dad fixed cars, Mom ran a corner store. They pushed school like it was the only way out. I got into UT, studied languages and business. 3rd year, I got pregnant. My boyfriend bailed. The medical bills hit hard, rent didn't stop. So I dropped out and took this job. It let me raise my son. She paused. Her eyes glazed for a second, but she didn't blink it away. David just listened. But I never stopped learning, she said. I stayed up late with Duolingo, YouTube, Coursera, listened to how I built this, borrowed Simon Sinek's books from the Austin Library. A Facebook group for single moms pushed me to try Arabic. She reached into her tote and laid a worn notebook on the desk. This is where I started, and I've never stopped writing my story since. Most people never ask, Sarah said, her voice calm. They see the receptionist uniform and assume. That last word, assume, just hung there. David leaned back. Her story sat on his chest like a weight. Sarah cleared her throat. I'm not saying this so anyone feels sorry for me. I'm not bitter. Life is what it is. I did what I had to do. Still do. She met his gaze, not begging, just facts. Clear, a little sharp, a little painful. David let out a slow breath. Sarah Collins was brilliant. That much was clear. Ever think about doing something else? He asked. She gave a small shrug. Sometimes. But it's hard to dream when the bills won't wait. Silence filled the room again, thicker this time. David reached for his notebook and scribbled something down. What are you writing? Sarah asked, curiosity flickering. He looked up. Ideas. And one idea in particular would not leave his head. That thought followed him the rest of the day, through budget meetings, partner calls. Sarah Collins, the way she'd listed 5 languages like it was nothing. The way she moved through that conversation with the Dubai guests, like she belonged in every room they entered. That kind of talent didn't just happen. It took discipline and heart. Late that afternoon, David took the stairs back down to the 1st floor. The air was warmer there, walls a little scuffed. Near the break area and ping-pong table, he spotted Sarah sorting papers, her old notebook by her side. Mind if I bother you again? He asked. Sarah turned, surprised. You came down here? David smiled. Been thinking about this morning. The Dubai team wants to meet again. They asked if you could join, help with translation and the discussion. Think you're up for it? She wiped her hands on her shirt and nodded. Arabic? I can do that. They walked to meeting room 2B, open layout. Big touchscreen glowing at the front. 5 Dubai executives sat awkwardly, checking their phones. Sarah stepped in, offered a polite bow, and began speaking Arabic with ease. The shift was instant. Shoulders dropped, eyes brightened. She translated, then smoothly suggested ways to streamline collaboration in the Gulf region, pulling ideas straight from how I built this. When one of the guests cracked a joke about Arabic coffee, Sarah tossed back a reply that made the room laugh. David didn't catch a word, but he didn't have to. He saw connection. 30 minutes later, the $1 million AI contract was signed. One of the directors emailed later that day, praising Sarah's professionalism and cultural understanding. In the hallway, David caught up with her. Have you ever done anything like that before? She shook her head, just helped people. At hospitals, offices, wherever I could. But my son needed me more. David nodded. How's he doing now? 12. Obsessed with soccer. She smiled, resting a hand on the notebook. David looked at her. You weren't just translating in there. You were building bridges. Sarah gave a half shrug, eyes quietly glowing. The Dubai deal was just the beginning. David knew Sarah Collins was going to do so much more. Paid her own way through school. Stubborn, just like my mom, Sarah said with a small smile. David chuckled. For a moment, it wasn't CEO and receptionist, just 2 people sharing a quiet truth. They walked back to the front desk. Sarah still had a few appointments to schedule before her shift ended. I didn't do anything special today, she said before sitting down. David raised an eyebrow. Well, I saw something different. She gave him a modest grin and turned back to work. That night, David sat in his car for a long time, not ready to drive. His mind kept circling the same thoughts. Board pressure, global strategy, how talent often gets overlooked just because no one stops to see. They kept looking overseas, and yet the gold had been right here, behind the front desk at Quantum Dynamics. The next morning, Sarah was checking emails when Lisa, her manager, tapped her shoulder. David wants to see you. Again. Sarah blinked. Did I do something wrong? Lisa shook her head, didn't say, just said to send you up. Sarah wiped her hands on her blouse and stepped into the elevator. This time she could feel eyes on her, people whispering. Someone even gave her a small nod, like they knew something she didn't. Up on the third floor, in the open-plan executive suite that smelled faintly of cold brew and ambition, David stood at the window, sipping coffee, looking out over the Austin skyline. Come in, he said, still facing the glass. Sarah stepped in, waiting near the door. He finally turned around and set the mug down. I've been thinking about wasted potential, he began. How many people never get a real shot, not because they're not qualified, but because no one ever looks close enough? Sarah stayed silent. She'd heard praise before. She'd also heard promises that never went anywhere. I want to create a new position, David said. International Relations Specialist. Private office, higher salary, travel, Dubai, Tokyo. Sarah frowned slightly. For what? To use your languages. To work with Grok to analyze culture, translate contracts, lead our projects in the Gulf and East Asia. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. You're qualified, David continued. That Dubai meeting? You translated, contributed ideas, helped close the deal. That wasn't luck. Sarah narrowed her eyes. Is this real? As real as it gets, he nodded. I never finished college either. But you've got something better. Real-world experience, 5 languages, and grit. You'd travel, lead major initiatives. You think I care about a piece of paper? Sarah shifted her weight, uneasy. A group of single moms in Austin told me to keep going. That podcast, How I Built This, there's a quote I keep coming back to. Skill is what you do, not what you own on paper. She exhaled. But I'm scared I'm not enough. David nodded gently. This is a 3-month trial offer, a starting salary, a private office, and the chance to prove yourself on real work. He looked her in the eye. But it'll take proof. I'll need you to complete several deliverables, including a report in French. Do that. This position becomes permanent. Sarah crossed her arms. What are people gonna say? Let them talk. She took a deep breath. I've never had a desk upstairs, never had a title. You'll learn fast. I don't even have the wardrobe for this. David smiled. We'll take care of that. She looked at him, the doubt still there, but fading. Later that day, she touched the old receptionist badge in her desk drawer, a quiet reminder of the long road behind her. David glanced her way as he walked past. That Dubai contract was just the beginning, and this role wasn't just for Sarah, it was the start of something bigger, for both of them. HR will send over the clothing stipend today, David said. Sarah gave a dry laugh. You really thought of everything, huh? I'm trying, he smiled. A pause. What about the front desk? She asked. Who replaces me? David shrugged gently. We'll find someone, but no one's going to replace you. Sarah looked down at her hands, then back up. This isn't some kind of charity thing, right? David shook his head. It's overdue recognition. She bit her lip, eyes starting to glisten. But she blinked the tears away before they could fall. All right, she said, voice steady. They shook hands, but it wasn't just a handshake. It felt like a turning point. By Wednesday, the news had moved faster than the elevators. Sarah Collins, the receptionist for 6 years, was now the company's new international relations specialist. People whispered in corridors, she speaks 5 languages. David picked her personally. Maybe she had some secret past, some hush-hush project experience no one knew about. In the tech lounge, the espresso machine hummed. Michael Tran dropped a message in Slack. So now receptionists get promoted? Lisa Nguyen, her front desk coworker, typed back, You give me hope, Sarah. Maybe one day I'll do something big too. But not everyone was cheering. Ellen Parker, one of the senior managers, narrowed her eyes from across the room. That energy, resentment, curiosity, doubt, found its way into emails and side chats. Nobody was used to someone jumping floors like that, from the lobby to the 3rd floor. Sarah felt it the second she stepped into her new office. A desk, a potted plant, a computer she hadn't even touched yet. To her, it felt like another planet. She stopped by HR. "Can I keep my old badge?" she asked, just to remember. That afternoon, Ellen Parker walked into her office, laptop in hand. "So, you're the new hire?" she said, voice clipped. Sarah nodded. "That's right." Ellen set the laptop down. "French language report. 48 hours. Let's see what you've got." Then she turned and walked out. Sarah stared at the screen, her heart pounding. That night, she stayed late, digging through the French contract, analyzing it with Grok, the company's AI tool. She found a hidden penalty clause, one that would have cost the company tens of thousands if they'd missed the deadline. She proposed a revision and recommended a supply chain fix that would cut delivery time by 20%. The next morning, she submitted the report. Ellen read it silently, then gave a small nod. "It'll do," she said. But her tone had softened. That evening, David stopped by Sarah's office. "How was day one?" Sarah leaned back. "Rough, but I've had worse." "Ellen give you trouble?" "She doesn't scare me." David smiled. "Figured." She hesitated. "Why now? Why me? You could have just given me a bonus and walked away." David leaned against the doorframe. "Because I see myself in you. I came from nothing. My dad fixed cars in a town no one remembers." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "You used to be a receptionist?" He grinned. "No, but I've been underestimated plenty of times." She nodded. Something in her eyes shifted. Later that night, she opened her desk drawer, ran a finger along her old badge. Austin Moms Group. That podcast, How I Built This. The nights she studied when she wanted to quit. "Skill," she whispered, "is what you do, not what you hold." Her coworkers might still doubt her, but Sarah Collins knew exactly what she was here to prove, to quantum dynamics and to herself. "I worked 3 jobs to get through college," David said. "Most people thought I didn't belong here." Sarah nodded slowly. "And now you're the one who decides who gets in." He nodded back. "Exactly." A pause hung in the air. Sarah glanced down at the contract on her desk. "Honestly, I'm nervous." "Good," David replied. "That means you care." Sarah looked up. "Some people are going to hate this. They'll get over it. Or they won't. Either way, we're moving forward." David stood tall. "You have a real story, that's Sarah. Now it's your stage." Then he turned and walked out. Sarah looked around her office, remembering the nights she cried in hospital waiting rooms, came home with aching feet, and reheated soup alone. The birthdays she missed, the promotions she watched go to people who never said hello. She opened her drawer and placed her old receptionist badge inside. Not to forget, but to remember. Her story wasn't just hers anymore, and the spotlight was only getting brighter. By the weekend, a nameplate appeared outside her office door. Black letters on brushed steel, Sarah Collins, International Relations Specialist. On Friday, David sent out an email to the entire company. Short, clear. It highlighted her role, her past, and most of all, her value. It wasn't charity, it was merit. Plain and simple. The whispers didn't stop. Some managers still grumbled. But Sarah? She lit up. She spoke Japanese with Tokyo, French with Canada, Spanish with Mexico. With Grok, she analyzed cultural nuances better than the translation software ever could. On Monday, she led a call with the Qatar team. A key deal had been stalled for weeks due to cultural missteps. Sarah switched effortlessly into Gulf Arabic, and with Grok's insights, she helped smooth tensions and land a major deal with Qatar, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia. The mood shifted. People leaned in, listened. Because when you speak someone's language, you're not just communicating, you're respecting. After the meeting, Sarah hosted a lunch and learn in the break room. She shared her self-learning journey, Coursera, YouTube, Reddit threads. Lisa Nguyen, the receptionist who once watched in awe, started learning Spanish on Duolingo. Eyes glowing. "You inspire me," Lisa told her. Midweek, David surprised her during an internal company meeting. He handed her a small pin with the words "Hidden Star" etched in gold. The room clapped. Quiet, genuine, no balloons, no cake, just meaning. David's LinkedIn post about her earned hundreds of reactions, but Sarah didn't post anything. She just touched the badge on her desk and smiled. One intern whispered, "What's Hidden Star?" A longtime employee leaned in. "She's the reason we remember. You don't need a suit to shine." From across the room, David nodded. Proud. Sarah had become a fire, and quantum dynamics was starting to glow. The Austin Moms Group, that late-night podcast, How I Built This, and Grok had carried her here. And now, even the ones who doubted her couldn't look away, because Sarah wasn't just proving herself to the company. She was proving herself to herself. Thursday morning, Sarah found a small box on her desk. Inside was a neatly folded slip of paper. I used to think I was invisible, it read. You made me believe I could be something. Thank you. No name, just proof. Someone needed her. She held the note tight, heart racing. This wasn't just a job. She was lighting paths. But light always casts shadows. She sat still, eyes fixed on the paper, throat tight, no tears. She didn't need them, because she knew something was shifting. Not everyone likes change. Ellen Parker was the first to speak out. That afternoon, an email arrived, not from David. It was from Ellen. And the board. Subject line, immediate review. Sarah walked into the small glass-walled meeting room. Austin sunlight poured through the window. The screen on the wall glowed blue. Ellen sat across from her, gray blazer sharp, a thick folder in front. Miss Collins, she said coldly. Have a seat. Sarah did. Hands flat on the wooden table. Ellen tapped her pen. Your file, no degree, no management training. 6 years at reception. Why are you here? Sarah met her eyes. Because I get things done. Ellen raised a brow. Do you? Complete this French report. 48 hours. Prove it. Sarah didn't blink. All right. Ellen slid the folder across the table. You know what happens if you fail, Sarah nodded, and then she worked. Through the night. Grok open. French contracts blinking on her screen. She found a buried penalty clause. A $60,000 landmine no one had caught. She restructured a supply chain model that cut delivery time by 20%. Not a single MBA in the building had flagged it. She submitted the report on time. Ellen read it silently, and then a nod. You did well, she said, voice softer, eyes less sharp. Sarah didn't leave the room right away. She opened her laptop. One new message. It was from Michael Tran, the same guy who once dismissed her in Slack. I was wrong, Sarah. Want to collaborate on the Japan project? She smiled. Hand brushed over the old receptionist badge in her drawer. 6 years of coffee runs. Bills stacked high. Now she was here. Leading. Ellen passed her in the hallway. You're still a risk, she muttered. Sarah didn't flinch. I'm used to it, she said calmly. My whole life's been one. Back at her desk, she stared at the glowing screen. Michael's email still open. Quantum Dynamics wasn't just a company. It was the place where she finally got to prove it. She scrolled through the inbox. Fingers brushed that badge again. Her journey, from front desk to boardroom, was real. She didn't have a degree. She had results. And now, even Michael could see that. She shut the laptop, let the Austin light flood the room. Her fire hadn't gone out. It was burning brighter than ever. Friday morning, word of the meeting with Ellen had made its way around Quantum Dynamics. But Sarah didn't flinch. She arrived early, led the morning briefing, and dialed Tokyo. Fluent Japanese, clear and calm. That afternoon, another note appeared on her desk. Thank you for making me believe I could shine too. No name. But it was enough to stop her in her tracks. Sarah held the paper, eyes glassy, then smiled. She wasn't just doing a job. She was becoming a flame. In the weeks that followed, people began to seek her out. Not just for translations, but for advice, for confidence. Sat with colleagues, coached them through presentations, always gentle. Juan Morales, the night security guard, asked, How'd you learn all that? Sarah smiled. One step at a time, the same way you'll learn coding. Juan nodded, eyes bright. He started studying through Grok the next day. Something was shifting. Sarah was changing the culture. One afternoon, David passed her near the juice bar. You're getting a lot of praise, he said. Sarah took a sip of lemonade, trying to tune out the whispers. You're making waves, he smiled. Here? That's usually a sign you're doing something right. I want to find more people like you, he added. Sarah nodded. They're already here, you just have to look. David tilted his head. Will you help me build a training program? I've already been thinking about it, she said. A month later, the Hidden Stars initiative launched. Lisa Nguyen started learning Spanish. Juan Morales transitioned to a technical assistant role, all through Grok. Sarah's idea had taken root. She hosted a workshop at the Austin Central Library, sharing her journey as a single mom, how she climbed out from under bills, thanks to Duolingo. A tech conference in San Francisco invited her to speak. Your value doesn't lie in the job you do, Sarah told the room. It lies in what you dare to learn, in who you choose to become. Pick a skill. Spend 10 minutes today, use Grok or Duolingo. Just start. The crowd stood, applauding. Guan found her afterward, eyes wet. You're a light, Sarah. My mom used to make coffee, spoke 3 languages. I used to hide that. Sarah squeezed his hand. Never be ashamed of where you come from. Only be ashamed if you can't see the brilliance in it. She walked out of the hall, shoulders squared, not because of the applause, not because of the new title, but because she had carried every late-night study session, every unpaid bill, into this moment. The Austin Chronicle called her the Flame of Austin. That weekend, Sarah took her son to Barton Springs. I'm gonna get you to college, she promised, watching the water ripple in the sunlight. She reached into her coat pocket and touched the old receptionist badge she still carried. 6 years invisible. Now she was the light. Don't judge someone by the job they do. Talent doesn't need a title. Wisdom doesn't wait for permission. Greatness can stand behind a desk, holding nothing but a notebook full of dreams. If you've ever felt overlooked, keep walking. Someone will see you. Pull up a chair and bring a few extras. And if you're still here, thank you for staying with Sarah's journey to the very last word. We don't always know what quiet strength looks like, but today, we saw it. And maybe, just maybe, it reminded you of someone in your own life, or a part of yourself you're learning to believe in again. We'd love to hear from you. Which moment in Sarah's story spoke to you the most? Was it the night she nearly gave up? Or the day she finally stood tall? Drop your thoughts below. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. And if this story made you pause, breathe deeper, or feel something real, please share it with someone who might be walking through their own dark hallway right now. Sometimes, one story can light the way for 100 more. If you want more stories that move your heart, consider subscribing to our channel. It's free, and it helps us keep bringing real stories to the people who need hope more than headlines. We believe in quiet voices, in invisible strength, in stories like Sarah's, and maybe in your story too. We'll see you in the next one.